You did not send the message. You wrote it, you rewrote it, you deleted it, you wrote it again, and then you put the phone down and told yourself it was not the right time. But you and I both know that was not it. You did not send the message because somewhere between the first draft and the delete button, a very specific fear arrived. Not the ordinary discomfort of vulnerability. Something older. Something that felt, for just a moment, like it might not survive the no. That is not anxiety about a text message. That is a wound that was there long before you had a phone to send messages on. Think about the last time someone gave you feedback, even mild, even constructive.
The thread is unbroken, the past reveals itself.
Made no rational sense.
The compass swings, bridging the
Your
years.
chest tightened.
The connection is forged. Revelation is near. Great job, but we just need to refine the wording on Section 5.
OMG, I'm a failure. This is the end of my career. They hate my work. My entire future is ruined.
Kept trying to decide what they really meant about it.
You did not send the message.
You wrote it, you rewrote it, you deleted it, you wrote it again,
And then you put the phone down and told yourself it was not the right time. But you and I both know that was not it. You did not send the message because somewhere between the first draft and the delete button, a very specific fear arrived. Not the ordinary discomfort of vulnerability.
The pattern emerges from the echoes of the past,
for just a moment,
revealing the
like
timeline connections now.
The no.
The investigation begins.
That is not anxiety about a text message. That is a wound that was there long before you had a phone to send messages on. Or think about the last time someone at work gave you feedback, even mild, even constructive, and your body did something that made no rational sense. Your chest tightened. Your face went somewhere you had to work to control. And for the rest of that day, or the next 3 days, some part of your mind kept returning to it, kept replaying the exact words, kept trying to decide what they really meant about you. Or the last time you did not apply for something you wanted, not because you were unqualified, because you could not tolerate the specific shape of the silence that follows a rejection letter. Today, we are going to map that fear completely. We are going to trace it back to where it actually started. Not where you think it started, but where the research consistently points. We are going to look at what it has been costing you, and we are going to give you 6 specific, research-grounded methods to begin loosening its grip. By the end of this video, you will understand something that almost nobody tells overthinkers. Your fear of rejection is not a personality flaw. It is not evidence of weakness. It is a very precise survival response that was calibrated in a very specific set of circumstances and has simply never received the update that those circumstances are over.
Before we go further, if you have ever abandoned something you wanted because you could not stand the thought of being told no, if you have ever stayed in something that was not right because leaving felt like being rejected, if you have ever worked twice as hard as necessary just to make sure no one could find a reason to turn away from you, subscribe right now. This channel is built for exactly that person. And leave a comment right now. Write the number of times this
On
week
response
you stopped
activated.
yourself from
I'm so
doing
sorry, don't
something
be angry.
because you were afraid
Surrender the
of
idea and the
rejection.
idea abandoned.
Just a number. I read every
Thank
single
you.
one.
We appreciate the
Meet
new direction.
Alex. Alex is 34. Alex is, by every external measure, a competent and likable adult. Alex has a job.
The architecture of rejection
Alex has
sensitivity,
friends.
neural and
Alex has a
psychological
life
pathways.
that, from the
Hypervigilance
outside,
lowers the threshold,
looks like it
protecting
is
the
being
amygdala and
lived with
HPA
reasonable
axis,
confidence.
elevating cortisol. The rejection
here is what
sensitivity
Alex's
mechanism
friends
activates
do
in the
not
hypervigilance
know.
zone of the prefrontal
Alex
cortex.
has not asked for
Amygdala
a raise in
hyperactivation
3
leads to
years.
digestive
Not
sensitivity.
because Alex does not deserve
The
it,
diagnostic trace
but
reveals an
because the
elevated
idea
amygdala
of the
response,
conversation
a key marker
produces
of
a
heightened
physical
sensitivity.
sensation
This triggers the
that Alex has
hypervigilance
learned to
pathways with
avoid
striatum.
with great
The
expertise.
mechanism shows neural circuitry
Alex
map.
received
Amygdala
an invitation
hyperactivity
to
amplifies
submit work
perceived
to a
rejection.
publication
This triggers
Alex has wanted to
hypervigilance,
be in
cognitive
for 6
distortion,
years.
resulting in maladaptive responses and
Alex
high rejection
declined.
sensitivity. The mechanism begins with a social
efficiently,
trigger, which
with
the
a
brain's
reason that
emotive
sounded
cortex interprets as a
completely
threat.
reasonable.
A hyperactive
And then,
anticingulate cortex
Alex
creates a
spent the next
distorted
2
filter,
weeks
leading to a
thinking about what might
The
have
mechanism of
happened
rejection
if Alex
sensitivity
had
begins with a
submitted
perceived
and
cue,
been rejected.
activating the amygdala. The
Not
feedback
what
loop
might have
engages the
happened if Alex
PFC,
had
causing
submitted
cognitive
and been
avoidance and a
accepted.
behavioral response.
The brain
Neural networks
did
process
not
social
go
cues,
there.
with the amygdala hyper-reacting to perceived rejection,
Alex
as shown
ended
by
a
the rotating
relationship
consensus
that was
mechanism, where the
genuinely
ACC
working
triggers a C threat loop
because
and the
Alex
PFC
got
shows
there
dysregulation,
first.
amplifying emotional
Because
distress.
at some
Rejection
point,
sensitivity
Alex
begins with an
became so
external
certain
trigger,
that the
like
other
social
person would
exclusion.
eventually leave
Impaired executive
that
control
Alex
growth
left
creates an
first
anticipatory's inner
and
landscape,
called it a
offering
decision,
insight and
when
control.
really it was the
Rejection
oldest reflex
sensitivity
Alex
involves
has.
hyperactive neural circuits.
Exit before
The
you can be
amygdala
exited.
shows increased reactivity, while prefrontal control
Alex
is
in a
impaired.
meeting.
This leads to a
Someone
rapid,
offers a
intense
different
threat.
interpretation
Neural
of
mapping reveals
Alex's
hyperreactivity
idea.
in the dorsal anterior
Alex
cingulate
says
and an
immediately,
amygdala. Driving
"No,
the
you're
prefrontal cortex
absolutely
reduced
right. I
regulation
was probably
lowers the
overthinking
sensitivity
it
threshold,
and
amplifying
abandoned
emotional
the
dysphoria.
idea.
The compass of
Not
self
because
points
the
to
other
hidden
interpretation
origins,
was better,
rewinding to the dinner
because the
table
resistance
where
in the
vigilance was
room
born.
felt for 1
Fragments
second
of the self shatter,
Because the
then converge at the
resistance in
wound.
the room
The map of
felt
trauma
for
branches
1
from a single
second
point.
like
We
it
rewind to
might
the origin,
tip
the
into
formative wound.
disapproval.
A faceless child at the broken
The
crib.
most important
Here,
thing about
paths of
Alex
resilience
is
and avoidance
not what
diverge.
Alex does. It is what Alex has not done. Alex has not pitched the bigger idea, has not had the honest conversation,
Childhood
has
trauma
not
forms
submitted
through
the
3
work,
pathways:
has
emotional
not
abuse,
stayed in the
physical
good
abuse,
relationship.
and neglect,
What
revealing
we
the
are
self
talking
time.
about
Understanding
has a
these roots is the
clinical
first step toward healing.
Psychologists call it rejection sensitivity, and more specifically, rejection sensitive dysphoria, RSD, a term developed by researcher and ADHD
From adult behaviors
specialist
to mind
Dr.
rewinds
William
to the
Dodson,
origin of trauma.
that describes an
Hypervigilance,
extreme
detachment, and conflict stem from this
disproportionate
point.
emotional
The compass
response
stands us back,
to
illuminates the
perceived or
formative to
actual
healing.
rejection, criticism, or teasing. I want to emphasize the word perceived, because one of the hallmarks of this pattern is that the full emotional response activates not only when rejection actually occurs, but when it might occur. When there is any signal, real or imagined, that a rejection could be coming. The brain does not wait for the evidence. It fires the alarm early. It fires it often. And it fires it with an intensity that is completely out of proportion to the actual stakes of the situation. Here is the simplest way to understand what rejection sensitivity does to a person. Imagine that your nervous system contains a smoke detector. In most people, the smoke detector goes off when there is significant smoke, a real fire, a real danger. In a person with high rejection sensitivity, the smoke detector goes off when you make toast. It goes off when someone cooks dinner in the next room. It goes off in response to information that is not actually dangerous. And it goes off with the same intensity, the same alarm level, the same full-body response as it would if the house were actually burning.
The problem is not that you have a smoke detector. The problem is that your smoke detector has been calibrated for an environment that no longer exists. To understand where this calibration happened, we have to go to childhood, and specifically the quality of the emotional environment in which the self first formed. The majority of people who develop high rejection sensitivity did not grow up in what the world would call a bad childhood. They grew up in a childhood where something more subtle was happening. 3 developmental origins. 1. Conditional approval. An environment where warmth from a primary caregiver was not unconditional, where love was calibrated to performance, where you felt, through 1,000 small adjustments, that affection was connected to being good enough. The child learns the self is provisional. Approval must be maintained. Rejection is always one wrong move away. 2. Inconsistent attunement. Inconsistency connected to the availability of the caregiver, not to your behavior. A parent who was sometimes warm, sometimes not, through no failure of intention. The child cannot make the relationship predictable, so the nervous system develops hypervigilance, becoming extraordinarily attuned to signals of impending withdrawal. That hypervigilance becomes the rejection-sensitive adult's default operating mode.
3. Early social wounding. Significant social rejection during critical developmental years, being excluded, bullied, publicly humiliated. Social rejection during childhood.
Observe the
activates
fMRI
same
data.
Neural circuits as
Red and
physical
yellow
pain.
indicate high activity in
When
pain
those
response
circuits are
regions.
activated repeatedly, the
This
association
validates the
becomes
brain's
structural.
integrated response to
Rejection
pain.
equals pain. Pain equals danger. Danger equals survival response.
Research by Ethan Cross and Kipling Williams using fMRI imaging has consistently found that social rejection activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula, the same regions that process physical pain. This is not a metaphor. When your brain registers rejection, it processes it through the same neural architecture as injury. Research by Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA has shown that
Unseen
when people
costs
are
accumulate over
excluded
time,
from a social
quietly
group,
eroding potential
even
gains.
in a
Missed
simple
opportunities
computer
fade from
game,
view,
even
but their
with
impact remains.
strangers,
Quantifying
the
these
pain
losses
response
reveals the true
activates
price hidden
automatically,
beneath.
before the conscious mind has had time to evaluate whether the situation is actually threatening. The pain is pre-conscious. It fires before you can choose whether to feel it. The stress hormone cortisol, released in response to perceived social threat, activates the amygdala at levels comparable to physical danger. This is why, when the rejection fear fires, your thinking narrows, your working memory decreases, your ability to take a long view, all of that diminishes, because your body is in survival mode. If you have spent years telling yourself to just get over it, you have been fighting a neurological process that operates below the level of rational intervention. You cannot think your way out of a threat response. You have to work with the system, not against it.
Cost 1. The unmade attempt. Every time rejection sensitivity fires preemptively, every time it stops you before the question, before the application, before the submission, it robs you of the possibility of yes. The accumulated weight of unmade attempts, of doors you never tried, is a significant loss. It is not a loss that shows up on any ledger, but it is real. Cost 2. The corrupted feedback loop. Rejection sensitivity distorts your experience of the attempts you do make. When you receive criticism, even useful criticism, the response is so large that the information gets lost. You either defend against all of it or collapse under all of it. In both cases, you lose the information, which means you cannot improve. Cost 3. Relational distortion. Rejection sensitivity operates in every relationship. It makes you preemptively abandon things that are working. It makes you interpret neutral signals as threatening. It makes you simultaneously desperate for connection and terrified of the vulnerability required for it. And perhaps most painfully, it can make you genuinely difficult to be close to, which then confirms the fear, which intensifies the sensitivity.
Before the 6 methods, if this is landing for you, if you are recognizing the cost of this in your own life, if you have been carrying the weight of unmade attempts for longer than you can count, hit the like button right now. 2 seconds. It sends this video to someone who is standing at the edge of something they want and needs to know why the fear is so large and what to do about it. Here is the part that most videos about rejection sensitivity leave out, and it is the most important thing today. Your rejection sensitivity is not a defect in your character. It is not a failure of
The
your
recovery
psychology.
begins with insight,
It
where
is,
awareness sparks the
and
first
I
light.
need
Processing
you to
follows,
hear this
updating the nervous
clearly.
system through emotional
The
gears.
mark of a
Acceptance
very
blooms, the journey completes,
sophisticated
marking the path to
intelligence
healing.
that was doing exactly what intelligence does, adapting to the environment it was in. The child who developed this sensitivity was not weak. That child was perceptive, extraordinarily perceptive. That child noticed things that less perceptive children missed. That child read emotional signals with accuracy.
The sensitivity was a feature, not a bug. It was the feature that kept
From the
them
swamp of
safe,
disordered
kept
thought, we
the
begin the
warmth
healing
available,
process. Awareness
kept
lights
the
the neural
connection
pathways, updating the
intact.
nervous system. Connection
The
fosters
problem-
growth as the
The
journey
only
completes,
problem
revealing
is
the
that
integrated self.
environment changed, and the sensitivity did not receive the update. You are not in that original environment anymore, but the system does not know that. It is still running the old program, still firing the old alarm, still treating the possibility of rejection as an existential threat, because at one point it genuinely was. You cannot choose to stop feeling what you feel, but you can begin to update the program, and that is what the 6 methods are for.
Method 1. Name the alarm, not the threat. When the rejection sensitivity fires, the instinct is to respond to it as though the danger is real. The first method says, stop, and name what is actually happening. Not, I am about to be rejected, but my rejection alarm is firing. This is based on research by Matthew Lieberman at UCLA, which found that putting feelings into words, affect labeling, measurably reduces amygdala activation. When you name what is happening rather than reacting to it, you recruit the prefrontal cortex and literally reduce the physiological intensity of the response. The practice. When the alarm fires, say out loud if possible, my rejection alarm is firing. This is an old signal. It is not necessarily an accurate signal about this situation. You are not telling yourself your feelings are wrong. You are creating a gap between the signal and your response. And in that gap, something else becomes possible.
Method 2. Trace
The journey begins at stage
original
22,
wound.
identifying psychological
Ask
triggers.
where you
The
first
compass
learned
activates,
that
illuminating the
rejection
pathway
was
for
this
introduce these
dangerous.
changes, completing
Not
the healing
what rejection
process.
have you experienced as an adult. Go further back. Who first taught you, through their actions, that you needed to manage your behavior carefully to keep their warmth? What was the earliest situation in which being rejected felt genuinely threatening to your sense of self?
This is the struggle phase,
The
where the
practice.
nervous system holds past patterns.
Write out
We build
in as
skills to
much
form
detail as
new,
you
healthier
can
neural
recall
connections.
the
These
first
pathways
time you
integrate, leading to
remember the
restoration,
fear
and
of
healing method
rejection.
is now complete.
Not just the event, the feeling in your body, what it seemed to be protecting you from. And then write the difference between that situation and the current one. Who are the people involved? What are the actual stakes? What is the real probability that this current situation has the same consequences as that original one? You are giving your nervous system a map. This is then, this is now. The map is different. You can update your response accordingly. Method 3. The rejection inventory. Rejection sensitivity runs on generalization. Your nervous system has learned rejection is devastating from a limited set of high-stakes experiences, and it applies that conclusion to everything. The rejection inventory disaggregates this. The practice. Write down every significant rejection you have experienced in your adult life, professional, personal, creative. For each one, write 3 things. What actually happened after the rejection, what you learned from it, and what you still have despite it. What most people discover, the catastrophe their nervous system predicted did not actually occur. They survived. In many cases, the rejection led somewhere better. The self they were afraid of losing was not in fact lost. You are giving your nervous system actual evidence about the real consequences of rejection, rather than allowing it to run on predictions made from a child's limited dataset. Method 3. The rejection inventory. Rejection sensitivity runs on generalization. Your nervous system has learned rejection is devastating from a limited set of high-stakes experiences, and it applies that conclusion to everything. The rejection inventory disaggregates this. The practice. Write down every significant rejection you have experienced in your adult life, professional, personal, creative. For each one, write 3 things. What actually happened after the rejection, what you learned from it, and what you still have despite it. What most people discover, the catastrophe their nervous system predicted did not actually occur. They survived. In many cases, the rejection led somewhere better. The self they were afraid of losing was not in fact lost. You are giving your nervous system actual evidence about the real consequences of rejection, rather than allowing it to run on predictions made from a child's limited dataset.
Method 4. Exposure by design. This method requires the most courage, and it creates the fastest reduction in rejection sensitivity over time. It is intentional exposure to small, low-stakes rejection. The fear of rejection is maintained, in large part, by avoidance. Every time you avoid the situation that might produce rejection, you give your nervous system the message, yes, that was dangerous, you were right to avoid it, and the sensitivity grows. The practice. Identify 3 situations per week where rejection is possible, but the stakes are genuinely low. Ask a stranger for a small favor they might decline. Submit to an open call where you do not expect to be accepted. Pitch an idea in a meeting where you expect it to be modified. Say something to a friend that expresses a genuine preference rather than just agreeing. The point is to accumulate evidence your nervous system currently lacks. Evidence that rejection does not destroy you. Start small, very small, and increase gradually. The nervous system updates slowly, but it updates. Method 5. The self-worth decoupling practice. This method addresses the root of what makes rejection so devastating, the equation between rejection and self-worth. When a job says no, it means you are not the right fit for this role at this time. When a person says no, it means this is not the right connection for these 2 people at this point. When a publisher says no, it means this work does not fit our needs right now.
Thank you.
None
We
of
appreciate the
those
new
things
direction.
mean you are not enough. But for a person whose self-worth was formed in a conditional approval environment, the no always feels like it means something about the
The
fundamental
architecture of
question
rejection sensitivity,
worth.
neural and
Because in the
psychological
original
pathways,
environment,
hypervigilance
it
lowers the
did.
threshold for protecting the amygdala and
practice.
HPA axis,
Every
elevating
time you
cortisol.
receive a rejection,
The
or when
rejection
you are in the
sensitivity
grip of a
mechanism
fear
activates in the
ask 2
hypervigilance zone
questions.
of the prefrontal
What
cortex.
does this rejection
Amygdala
tell me about
hyperactivation
this
leads
situation,
to
this
digestive
fit,
sensitivity.
this timing?
The diagnostic
Then,
trace reveals an
what
elevated
does it tell me
amygdala
about my
response, a
intrinsic
key marker
value
of heightened
as a
sensitivity.
person?
This triggers the
answer to
hypervigilance
the second
pathways with
question.
distriatum.
Always.
The mechanism shows
Nothing. The rejection tells you about circumstances. It tells you nothing about whether you are worthy of love, connection, and belonging. Method 6. Build the internal witness. The 6th method is the longest project and the most important one. It is the development of what psychologist Tara Brach calls the internal witness, the capacity to observe your own experience without being swallowed by it. Rejection sensitivity functions, in part, because there is no observer between the alarm and the reaction. The signal fires, and the response follows immediately, automatically, without any pause in which you could evaluate what is actually happening. The internal witness is the pause. The practice. The most evidence-based path to this is regular mindfulness practice, not as relaxation, but as specific training in the capacity to observe rather than react. Research by Sarah Lazar at Harvard found that consistent mindfulness practice produces structural changes in the prefrontal cortex, the very region that provides the evaluating capacity we are building. Every time you name the alarm rather than reacting to it, you are strengthening the internal witness.
The internal witness does not eliminate the pain of rejection. The goal is to feel it without being destroyed by it. To feel it, acknowledge it, extract the real information, and continue. That is the capacity this method builds.
I want to end with something that I think is the most important thing in this entire video. You are afraid of rejection, and some part of you has believed for a long time that this fear is the evidence of something wrong with you, that other people do not feel this, that you are too sensitive, too needy, too dependent on external validation. I want to offer a different frame. You are afraid of rejection because you understand at the deepest level how important connection is. Because you have a nervous system that was designed to register the threat to belonging with appropriate seriousness. Because at some point in your life, that sensitivity was the thing that kept you connected to the people you could not afford to lose. The wound is real. The fear is real. And the adaptation that created the fear was the right adaptation for the moment it was built for. Your job now is not to stop feeling. Your job is to update the map, to bring your nervous system's predictions into alignment with the environment you are actually in. The compass was never pointing at the people who might reject you. It was pointing at the part of you that was formed in the original wound. The part that still needs to know it is enough, that it belongs, that it will not be left. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You are someone with a very loud smoke detector, calibrated for a fire that is no longer burning. The fire is out. You can update the alarm now. Stay still.